The goal is to satisfy a life goal, buying a home, without creating the financial panic of, are we going to run out of money? Hi, I'm Ayers, and this is Money Changes Everything. Can I afford to move number 2? Is draining our savings to buy a home a bad idea? Key takeaways. Emptying your savings to buy a home isn't automatically wrong, but it does increase risk. Liquidity is not the same thing as wealth, and you need both. A larger loan can be a smarter move if your income supports it and you're a strong saver. Welcome back to Can I Afford to Move, a series where we take real housing dilemmas and talk through how the numbers stack up and what your nervous system is telling you, and why these two things are often in conflict. Last time we explored the question of paying off a mortgage early. Today's question is one I hear constantly, especially from first-time homebuyers who feel emotionally ready but financially underprepared. Here's the email I got. Hi, Ellie Jane. It feels like the right time to move. We've been going to open houses on weekends, doing the Zillow doom scroll thing at night, and I've already mentally rearranged furniture in at least 3 living rooms. There's one house in particular that's been sitting on the market for a few months, and I can't stop thinking about it. The problem is that between the down payment, closing costs, and moving expenses, buying it would pretty much drain our savings down to zero, like truly zero. We'd still have our jobs and steady income, and we might be able to leave our 401ks alone depending on how the closing costs shake out, but our cash cushion would be gone. Is that just how buying a home works, or is that a sign we're jumping too early? How empty is too empty when it comes to savings before a move like this? This is a great question because it's not really about housing. These questions are never what they seem. It's about safety. To answer their second to last question, yes, this is often how buying works. Down payments are large, closing costs are always more than you think, and moving is expensive. There's always something to do to the house before you move in, like paint it or redo the floors. And many people walk away from the closing table staring at a bank balance that's the lowest it's been in a decade. But just because this can happen often doesn't mean it's the right path for you. When people ask this question, they're usually holding 2 competing truths at the same time. On paper, they can afford the house. In real life, they're terrified of losing the cash cushion that's made them feel stable. They have been saving this cash for years, so they're conditioned to feel comfortable with their cash safety net. A pile of cash savings makes you feel like you have choices, optionality, and that anything is possible. Once those dollars leave your account, you've made your choice and you have to live with it. Well, in this case, since it's a house, live in it. There are 2 kinds of safety here: technical affordability and psychological safety. This is where people confuse wealth with liquidity. Home equity counts towards your general wealth, of course, but unlike cash or stocks, you can't use it quickly to solve problems. When you put cash down, you are laying the foundation of equity in your home, but it does not behave like cash. Once your savings turn into drywall and appliances, they stop being flexible. You can't use them to absorb a job loss, a medical issue, or a bad year without adding debt or stress. Yes, you can borrow against equity later, but that is not the same thing as having money you can access immediately without asking a bank for permission. So the real question isn't, can we afford to drain our savings, but rather, how fragile does this make us? Draining your savings can be fine if your income is stable, your jobs are secure, your monthly payment leaves some breathing room, and you have a realistic plan to rebuild cash within a defined time frame. Not eventually, not once things settle down. Where people get into trouble is assuming savings will magically reappear while simultaneously increasing their fixed expenses. If the house payment eats the surplus you used to save all those years, the rebuild of savings never happens, and the stress of not having a plan B becomes permanent. Let's talk about being house poor. When people say they're afraid of being house poor, they're talking about the feeling that the house consumes all available resources: cash, flexibility, attention, and emotional bandwidth. Being house poor doesn't just mean your mortgage is high. It means your housing costs are so large that you suddenly feel like you can't afford things that you used to. Saving slows down or stops, travel becomes stressful, every repair is a nightmare. Every unexpected expense triggers a spiral of, we shouldn't have done this. This is not a great state of mind to be in with your partner. This is where resentment and I told you so's start to bubble up. What's important to understand is that you can be house poor even if you technically qualify for the mortgage. Banks underwrite loans based on debt to income ratios, not on whether you can actually afford it. They don't care if you can save, invest, or sleep at night. They care that the payment clears and that they profit from your interest payment. This is why people who drain their savings to buy a home often feel house poor immediately, even if their income is solid. They've converted flexibility into obligation in one wire transfer. Borrow more. There is another option besides wipe yourself out or don't buy. You could take out a larger loan and put less down. I don't love draining savings to zero. Cash is oxygen. It buys you time, flexibility, and the ability to handle surprises without blowing up your life. I would rather see someone carry a slightly higher mortgage payment than empty every account and hope nothing goes wrong. If your income comfortably supports the payment, taking on a larger loan is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a trade-off. You can always make extra principal payments later, but you cannot easily undo wiring every last dollar you have to an escrow company. People fixate on down payment percentages because it feels like they're going to be more of a homeowner. Lower payments equals safety, but safety also comes from liquidity. A mortgage that's affordable but leaves you cash poor can be more stressful than a higher mortgage payment paired with actual savings. For disciplined savers, going close to zero at closing may seem like a temporary condition rather than a permanent one. The key question is, how quickly can you refill the tank? The goal is to satisfy a life goal, buying a home, without creating the financial panic of, are we going to run out of money? So how empty is too empty? If buying a home leaves you with no emergency fund at all, you're probably taking the leap too early. You have to ask yourself if you can stomach the risk of putting all your money into one asset. That doesn't mean you have to wait forever to buy a home. It just means that you adjust a lever to make things work better for you. For instance, you can adjust the price by finding a cheaper home, or you adjust the timing and push your goal out 6 months. And here's my parting shot. Don't go broke to buy a home. If you want to submit your own Can I Afford to Move, send me your question, your city, your current housing costs, your income range, and what's pushing you to move. I'll tell you what the numbers say and give you an unfiltered answer.